What if we had a what if episode on Wednesday?
I mean, but we do have what if episodes
I
every
know
week.
that I just tried to improvise. That didn't work.
I know.
Anyway,
We tried to do faster.
what if? Yeah. Anyway, what's happening? I'm tired. I am.
I
I am. I'm
see.
not gonna lie to you. I am. I'm going to sleep after this episode.
Well, let's get through it then, because I'm excited to talk about it. Well,
Let's
first,
go.
how are you? How are you doing besides
I'm
being
good. I'm
sleepy?
just. I'm just tired, and I'm happy I'm out of the rain because I've been in the rain for 2 days straight,
Yeah.
and it's finally stopped raining. So I'm content. I am content. Visions
That's
is out. I hadn't watched that episode. I'm not gonna watch it today. I'm gonna wait till Friday, more than likely.
it. Definitely popped up on Disney Plus today. Maybe I'll make time for that later. I'm not
Yeah,
too.
they did. It's the whole. It's every all 9 episodes are out. You can binge watch it, but we'll talk about that when we close out.
I'll be watching one.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch one at a time.
Well then, what if episode 7? What if Thor were an only child? Watch it. Tell us how'd you feel about the episode.
It was okay. It was.
Just
This is not my. This is not. I'm not. It was my favorite episode. It's not a favorite. It was very. It was okay. It wasn't bad. It was entertaining. It was entertaining, but not my favorite. Not my favorite.
it's it's up there for me. I found it
Really.
very entertaining. I also found it more believable than other episodes. I have said it
Okay.
on the Discord and I've said it on YouTube and online already that the ending for me is what took it there. However, there were little sprinklings of things throughout the episode that I had, questions on, and the ending clarified it all for me. So I am putting this episode. This is I've watched this a million times, so this might be a 10 for me. I thought this was a great episode. I
Wow.
thought it was. I thought it was, and in fact, I might have to watch Visions another day. I might watch that again.
That I think I so the ending was good for sure. The ending was really strong, but I don't know. Um it wasn't. I mean, it's like a 7 for me, probably. It didn't. Nothing hit me in this episode.
Nothing.
N- Not really.
Dang. All right. Well,
I wish. I mean, I honestly, I nothing really. It was a fun adventure to watch, but it didn't like nothing really stuck with me.
dang. Well, I'm happy. I enjoyed it. I'm
I know this is
sad
interesting.
that you didn't, but dang. Well, those are in the chat. If you could rate this episode on a scale of 1 to 10, let us know. Daniel
Definitely.
Fisher checked in at 7:29, well before we even got on camera. So thank you for chilling with us. The captain's log was right on time as always. Shout out Ducky Momo and the Uncool also. Uncool said he's hyped for Visions.
Yeah, I'm hyped for Visions. But I I shouldn't have mentioned that at the top, but we'll have a review for Visions on Fridays, every Friday. They all episodes are out now, but I'm gonna do one episode per week. So
Gotcha. Well, let me get into this episode then, since I am
yes,
clearly more excited.
hopefully maybe you can help raise my score of the episode. You can
Gotcha.
convince me to elevate it.
Well, we know that in the decision that was made, instead of keeping Loki to raise as his own son, uh, Odin gave Loki back to his people, and so he only had one child in this universe, who was Thor. Thor was not only raised as an only child, but he was also a rich kid. So he had break all the rules, throw party, rich kid syndrome, and was going from planet to planet, meteor to meteor, throwing parties and destroying stuff. His father drifts into Odin's sleep. and his mom checks out like, yo, I'm about to go play bridge with the homies. Well, spades in our case. I'm gonna go play spades with the homies for a few thousand years. You leave me alone. And he was like, cool, got you. And instead of doing the right thing, he decides to go to Earth and throw a party. And then this is where things get me. I noticed that there were a lot of Marvel characters that we knew very well, including you had Drax, Nebula, you had the Collector, I believe I saw, as
Yep.
well as uh
The Master.
what's his name? The Master, yes, in this episode. Anybody else you could think of? Well, of course, all his
It's
people from
all Guardians of
Asgard.
the Galaxy. Yeah.
Yes,
It's all of Asgard, all the Guardians of
yes.
the Galaxy. And that's basically
But there were a lot of people missing.
yes.
There were
That was yes.
no Avengers beside. I mean, Thor was an Avenger, but in this universe, he never had the chance to become one. And so throughout the episode, I'm like, where are they? They're also mentioning things like Jane mentioned that Thor was the first alien on Earth. Although later you hear Shield say, "Well, that's not necessarily true. There have been aliens here because we saw scrolls in this episode, and we already know the scrolls were here there before then." But my thing is, there should have been a Tony Stark before then, Bruce Banner before then. Not saying that they are aliens, but there should have been some knowledge of them on Earth. They should have been around. Where
Mm-hmm.
are they? So fast forward, you have Thor throwing a party. His mom comes and shuts it down. The episode ends. Him and Jane are on good terms. Howard the Duck got married. Some
Yeah.
cat reminded me, although for the most part, I would say this episode was just fun and enjoyable. What's important to me is the ending. I have said on every episode of our reviews that to me, what's important in every episode is not necessarily what happens in it, but how the episode affects that particular universe. So, who is alive, who is not alive, who's there, who's not there, what are the Avengers looking like in this episode? What is the state of the universe as far as safety? Are there any, enemies that are big or that are no longer a thing, like the episode 2 with Thanos not being a bad guy? That's really significant. So in me in this episode, we didn't really have a bad guy until the very end of the episode where we see Ultron in his suit lift his mask, and then you see Vision underneath that with the Infinity Stones.
Mm-hmm.
That's
And
where
an
it got
Infinity
a
suit.
lot more serious for me. So we know that you don't get Ultron without Tony Stark and Bruce Banner, because I was worried about where they are. Well, clearly they were around and they made Ultron. Now, where I struggle was what caused, or at least what we assumed is what caused Ultron's creation in first place was Loki attacking New York City. But Jane made it clear in the episode that Thor was the first alien, or at least that she thought Thor was the first alien on Earth. Now, although we knew that there were other ones, I think it would have been clear, or at least she would not have said that if Loki or another alien species had attacked Earth. So, at the very least, the creation of Ultron is an absolute moment in time, meaning that no matter what, it has to happen. And that I got that back from the episode with what's his name, Doctor Strange, where Christine kept dying over and over again.
Yeah,
And
that has to
Sorcerer
happen.
Supreme, that has to happen. So the fact that the Battle of New York from the first Avengers movie never happened, but there's still an Ultron, means that Ultron is an absolute moment in time. He has to come about, or at the very least, Tony Stark and Bruce Banner have to work together to create him. So we don't know how he was created, but we know he was created. Not only that, we see that he was successful in making Vision, but unlike Avengers Age of Ultron, his process of transferring his likeness into Vision never gets stopped. We don't get Jarvis Vision in this universe. To me, I'm assuming, but I'm pretty sure that was Ultron's vision. So if he was able to follow through with that process and create his own version of uh
The
Vision, that
Vision.
my theory is that he at the very least won that battle and destroyed Tony Stark and Bruce Banner. Because otherwise, with a giant party on Earth, you would have seen Tony Stark.
That's for sure.
And he was nowhere to be found.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's just no
Captain
way
America is obviously
gone.
absent as well.
I forgot about Cap.
Yeah, Peggy Carter. Like there were a lot of notable people from the Avengers that we didn't see. I didn't see Black Widow. I didn't see anybody except for Captain Marvel. I think Captain Marvel was who, and who else? Just Thor and Captain Marvel.
Thor and Captain Marvel.
Out of all of the Avengers. Now that is something I wasn't paying that much attention to throughout the episode until the end, when it was revealed that that was Ultron. Once the robots show up and I'm like, oh, those are Ultron droids, and then Ultron actually appears, and then Vision is inside. Like I was like, okay, that piqued my interest, and then the episode ended, and I was like, wow, wait, what? what just happened? I think that's where a lot of my disappointment stems from, because I think the thing that captivated me the most is how they ended the episode, and I'm not sure that they're going to follow that up in the next, or we'll see anything. Because you are absolutely, all the points you raised, I 100% agree with. But I was like, can I even get invested in that because up to this point we hadn't seen any follow through or follow up episodes from a previous episode. Like nothing other than the theme of it being, of course, what if, like the hypothetical situations that they continue to create. We hadn't seen a follow up episode. Like we hadn't seen a continuation. Like we hadn't seen Star-Lord, T'Challa's Star-Lord since that episode. We've seen T'Challa pop up several times. We've seen Iron Man get killed several times, like throughout the series. But like each version is a different version of Tony Stark, Iron Man. So I think that's for me at least, the strongest part of the show was that end with Ultron and Vision actually being one being. Like that's a very, very cool what if, and like, you know what I'm saying, like because for all the reasons that you just named, that would have been a really good episode to see. And I'm like, the episode, what you just pitched as an episode was better than this episode.
So I'm not getting attached to any idea as far as how it's going to play out on the What If show. What's important to me, like I said, is what the episode sets up in the future.
Time out. Howard the Duck is like literally the only constant in this show.
What do you mean?
Like he's the only unchanged. Every time Howard the Duck pops up, he's the same version of himself in each of the episodes. Like there's no, he has been the same exact version of his character throughout this entire saga.
Well, if you want to try to connect episodes,
I just realized that, like, because we were talking about, I just made the point that each time we see a character, it's a different version of that character. He's the only one that I can think of that every time we've seen him, he is the same version of himself that we've seen in previous episodes. I'm not trying to make any type of like broad stroke connection to anything or speculate. I'm just saying it's interesting that he has been the same version of his character since, for each of his appearances.
I would argue, not necessarily argue, but because he is a character that we don't know as well and are not as close to, we could suggest that Marvel is trying to build a connection with this character so that we can see it on screen more at some time.
Okay.
So possibility, but you could be right. I
It's
mean,
just it
and
is interesting that
if you
he
want to go there, because who was it? Ducky Momo mentioned that there is no Star Lord or T'Challa in this episode. If you want to consider it, actually, no, I don't think you can. I was
he
going to
should
say
have.
maybe this
Why? Yeah.
episode.
Why was he not in that? It is interesting. That is an interesting, very interesting aspect of this episode is how many of the Avengers did not show up when this moment happened.
Right. So in my mind, we know that Thor comes to Earth and, with Jane and all that stuff well before Black Panther. So I would assume that he is in Wakanda, not at all caring about the mess that's going on the planet because they don't deal with that stuff. Like, it doesn't matter
Mm-hmm.
what's going on out there. Wakandans do not leave Wakanda, period. That's not their business. However, the fact that there's no T'Challa or Star Lord makes me think of some sort of connection with episode 2. But I would have to think time wise that this episode would have to happen before episode 2. And if that were the case, how did everyone end up it like Howard the Duck was
Not
locked up in episode 2?
not necessarily though, because the whole reason for Thor in the first movie coming to Midgard or Earth was because of Loki, primarily. That was all. Um, the whole thing with the Frost Giants, the war that he started or almost started, is what got him banished to Midgard. And I think that happened a lot earlier in the timeline because of Loki being his brother. Taking Loki out of the equation probably puts him on Earth way later in the timeline than we realize. Probably after the Stark and Banner meet up for the first time and probably discuss the idea of an Ultron.
Okay. So then,
Because because he would have been the only if we're sticking to the 616 timeline, Captain Marvel is the first alien to appear in the scrolls, of course. So apparently that happens still as it did previously, but Thor being the first alien threat to show up, and as well as like the Asgard text expedite the Avengers program and the Avengers initiative, because that's the first external threat that that Earth faces since Captain Marvel left.
I'm looking
Then you
for.
got him. You got Nick Fury is still trying to assemble the team. So I mean, does that mean that Captain America's still frozen in ice? Is have they had no need for to assemble that team yet? Like, so is that it? Not necessarily meaning that Tony and Banner are deceased, but perhaps their meeting, instead of it being facilitated by the Avengers initiative, they met at some sort of thing, maybe one of Tony Stark's parties or something. You know what I'm saying? And then that got them talking about AI, and Tony talked about Friday and Jarvis, and they were inevitably led to them creating Ultron as a hypothetical. And Ultron, of course, did what Ultron does and left and conquered the galaxy. He had. Well, no, that is so strange because Thanos. We see what's Nebula, and she makes a reference to hearing. Yeah. So was that just a joke, or is Thanos still alive? Because if Thanos is still alive, how does Ultron have all the Infinity Stones? Too many questions.
Well, we could say this. Thanos has been convinced not to do that in other
versions, right?
Versions in other ones. Also,
But what
There's
if what if
he
Ultron
never.
actually killed Thanos?
I mean,
I think Ultron is smart enough to figure out a way to kill Thanos.
I would rather argue that Thanos never tries. That something stops him before then.
Mm.
Because that seems like too big of a battle for them. At the end of the day, they're both. I see Ultron and Thanos getting along.
Yeah.
Although I feel that Ultron despises humans, I don't think Thanos despised humanity. He just wanted to kill half of everybody. But I don't see them having too much of a fight. And Thanos, I don't want to call him a team player, but he knows how to get others to work for him. So
Yeah.
if he felt that working with Ultron could assist to his goal, he would do just that. But that's not what we see here. I think something else may have happened in this universe to prevent that. I mean, you got Drax partying. Like this
Yeah.
is the man who essentially may have lost his wife and his children, and then the Drax in episode 2 did not lose his wife and his children. Remember, he took a picture with Star Lord to show his wife and his daughter. That happened in episode 2.
Yeah.
I don't like that I'm trying very hard to connect these
I
two
mean,
episodes, but
yeah.
it would make more sense. The only thing that throws me off from that is the fact that Nebula did not have that blonde hair. They
Right.
gave her that hair for a
They
reason.
gave it. This was the Nebula that we've seen in the MCU. Like this is
Right.
not so. That I think that alone is, probable cause for there not to be a connection between this and episode 2, because there should have been some sort of continuity between that, and we probably should have seen Thanos as well if if that connection is there at all. And didn't T'Challa return to Wakanda at the end of he returned to Wakanda
Yes.
at the end of episode 2.
Yes.
So I don't know. I don't want to make that. I don't want to draw that connection. It is interesting though that there are a lot of similarities and parallels between the characters that we saw in episode 2 that also made an appearance in this episode.
How old was Shuri when T'Challa returned to Wakanda in episode 2? Was she
So
kid
that
Shuri or was she
she was teen. She was the same. I think she was around the same age she was when we see her in Black Panther.
Okay.
I think the youngest version that we've seen of her was in the last week's episode. Was that last week's? Yeah, last week's episode.
So. Yes. Ducky Momo says, I strongly think this is the same universe as T'Challa Star-Lord. That team is not there. Howard and Drax are the same, and there is a completed gauntlet in the Asgard basement. So the only thing that wants me to disagree is that the Nebula is different. But we do know that two nebulas did exist at the same time in Endgame. So maybe something funny was able to happen that put her there. But vibe-wise, that wasn't the same one to me. She was dressed differently. She acted differently. The Nebula in episode 2 with T'Challa Star-Lord was a lot more confident and in control of herself. So, but I don't disagree with you, Ducky Momo. There's just something funny about Nebula in this episode to me. So I'm trying to figure out, you know what? I have to go back to look at her to see what Nebula is she in episode 2, because Nebula loses pieces and looks differently in Endgame, her two versions of herself. I'm wondering which version is more like the Nebula at the beginning of episode 2. If it's more like the old one, then maybe there is two Nebulas existing in the same universe at the same time because of a time jump. That could do it. Daniel Fisher asked questions. If you got invited to an intergalactic rager like this, would you go? assuming that space travel is already normalized and is a thing, cool. If this is like all of a sudden it's a wild outer space party and like somebody comes right now asking me if I want to go, I got some reservations.
Yeah, I would probably not attend, but I would go to see what was happening if I was close enough to it, like reasonably close. I wouldn't go to the party, but I would want to see what was going on. But I agree, if this is early, like before space travel, yeah, there's a bunch of, we have no idea like what, we have no, vaccinations or inoculations against anything
I ain't get my shots. I ain't
of
get my
germs that aliens could have that we don't have on this planet. Like, nah, I'm good.
no
So you're gonna go to Mars. They're gonna catch all type of diseases that we don't have, and it's gonna be terrible. You don't want to be on that first trip to Mars. You don't want to be on the second one, third one. Same thing. If now in a fictional setting like this, if it's, yeah, like if I don't have to deal with like the real life consequences of an event like that, yeah, sure, why not? If it plays out kind of sort of how this did, yeah, absolutely.
If I could take my mom, I would go. Like, can my mom come? I'll feel.
I mean, it's a planet wide party. Like, I mean, it was. I saw. Remember the little map? The whole East Coast of the United States was lit up, and the West Coast. Basically, everywhere around the coastline was fired. Oh, once again, the heartland. Nobody. There's nothing going on out there. There's nothing going on.
If my mom could go, I'm Gucci. If my mom can't go, I can't go.
Yo, speaking of Pym, he wasn't in it. We didn't see Ant-Man, and we didn't see any of them either.
That's a fact.
It's interesting. That is very intriguing. That is very intriguing. But I mean, it doesn't necessarily add up to anything or lead anywhere. But it is interesting that all of the prominent members of the Avengers, minus Thor and Captain Marvel, are absent.
When does Ant-Man take place? Ant-Man, the first film is after.
Yeah.
It's after Age of Ultron, right?
It is after Ultron, yes.
I'm placing this movie
technically the majority of that movie.
I'm placing this movie around Age of Ultron time, and we hadn't been introduced to Ant-Man yet, and that could be why. Technically, he would still be in prison because when we see him in Ant-Man, he has recently gotten out of jail and he's on house arrest, I believe. So I would put him there, and I would put Hank Pym as working with Hope, but no longer being Ant-Man, and Hope is not the Wasp yet because she technically did not become the Wasp until the end of the Ant-Man and the Wasp. I mean, Ant-Man and until the end of the Ant-Man film. So I would say they may be around, but Paul Rudd is not Ant-Man yet. What's the character's name? It's not Paul Rudd.
Hank Pym.
Hank Pym is the dad. Who's Paul Rudd?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I don't know. I forgot his name.
He's just Ant-Man.
Yeah, he's Ant-Man.
Dr. Momo, we got a little distracted. So since the gauntlet is in Asgard, yet this Ultron has all the stones, and the stones only work in its own universe. I don't see how this is not a time traveler Ultron.
Wait, okay, but did the Infinity Gauntlet in Asgard have all of the Infinity Stones? That is the question. Because if from my recollection, the Infinity Gauntlet that was in the keep in Asgard did not have any of the Infinity Stones. It was just the gauntlet by itself. So that it doesn't necessarily predicate there to be a time traveling Ultron, even though it's not out of the realm of possibility for that to be a thing. I just don't know if that there's a correlation.
See, I think because it made me think.
Okay, I mean, I'm still I'm still sitting at a 7 overall for the episode, but like I said, like I said, the episode, the potential, not necessarily the potential, but the thing that, all the points that you raised about Ultron and the mystery around Ultron is more interesting than the actual episode for me. I think that would be a very interesting what if. Like seeing that play out, like what happened, like what would have had to transpire for that to be a thing. Like I would have much rather like to see that episode of Ultron getting an Infinity suit merging with the Vision, and like what, that's crazy, that's mind-blowing. Like I want that right there is a really good episode.
Well, I'll say this.
Intriguing.
One character
But
that we don't talk much about is I forgot his name. He Who Remains. Kang.
yeah,
We know that he's coming up, but we know that once his variants find out about the existence of one another, that they destroy time. He makes it clear that it's because of him that there are so many different problems. Not to say that multiverse wouldn't exist, but the connections between them and people communicating. So since they've said that it's canon, I like to dive deep into the episodes, at least to understand who is around in what universe, because we're gonna see those universes at some time, or at the very least, see those individual characters.
and the Watcher is the constant too.
Yes.
He is the constant in all of these episodes because he's the one observing all of this. But so I mean, there's going to be a connection between all of these, but it's really difficult to see how they're going to draw that connection. I just know that somehow it will be related to the Watcher in some form or fashion. Like, and yeah, maybe it's Kang. Like who? I don't know. This is, I'm looking forward with each passing episode, looking forward to seeing how this all concludes, because this was a fun episode, all because it's not necessarily like one of my top episodes. I'm still really enjoying this series, like because of everything that it could potentially create or lead to.
So I did just go through it again, and Ducky Momo may have a point. He is correct at 5:05. Oh, sorry. Did I just change that?
That is wild. So that's a definite change from the 616, because that gauntlet did not have any of the Infinity Stones, and I didn't peep that. So that's a great call.
At 5:05, I can actually share it. Share screen, Chrome tab. How many Disney Plus video players I got open? Let's share this one. Let's see if that's the one. Okay. So at 5:05. That's
all. Wow. Didn't peep that.
And then later, when Ultron pops out. No, let's go back another 10 seconds.
Wait, what? Huh? Oh, dear. Perhaps I spoke too soon.
That is that's a big what's the word? The way he came in might be on some time traveling stuff, but I would have to go back in the episode in different Marvel things to see how people appear through time, like how they pop in. If that makes sense, like how with the sling rings, you see how people use magic to go through from one place to another. I'd have to look to see how people look when they travel through time. Maybe I'd have to go specifically to Loki to see what it looks like. Well, the TVA, they use like doorways to go through time, but am I making sense?
Yeah. Somehow, well, I mean, he's also got the Space Stone, so he could just.
Maybe that's why he looks like that. Is that how Thor traveled around once he had the gauntlet?
Thanos.
From Thanos, yes.
Yeah. That's how he got to Wakanda. Like he just used the space stone and traveled to Wakanda because he popped up inside the barrier. So I mean, with the space stone and the time stone, he has command of all time and space.
Okay, but actually now I have another thing. Ducky may have to be correct because at the very least, let me get rid of that just so you can see. He has a point. Either the gauntlet that's in the basement is from another universe or Ultron is. Because if the gauntlet is there, there's no way that in the time of the party, they created Ultron and he made Vision and took over. The party didn't last that long from what we could gauge. So, and Vision has the stone in his head. So either the gauntlet is from a different period or the Ultron that we saw is. So Ducky, I agree with you. Somebody does not belong
Time
there.
travel.
Somebody, yeah. Either it's that gauntlet that was in the basement or it's Ultron himself.
Yeah, because Ultron would have already had to have been created. Ultron and the Vision for one. Like, all... It's not adding up.
I'm not going to say it's not adding up. I'm going to say it's some stuff I don't know yet. And at this point, I'm going to stop
that's what I'm saying. Like, I can't... There's too many unknowns to speculate further because that's a rabbit hole, potentially.
Yes. But
it's a great point. It is a great observation, too. That was a great call out by Ducky on that one.
Thank you, Ducky. I'm not going to think no more, but I'm thinking.
Yeah, because that was that is interesting. We'll see how all of that. Man, what if Kang is behind all this?
I mean, that's why I brought him up. Because
he could be behind the scenes. A variant or multiple variants of Kang could be behind the scenes manipulating all of this. That would be so mind-blowing. Yo, that would be, goodness gracious, that would be a great way to conclude this series.
We haven't seen him in one episode yet.
I know. That would be so cool, though. Like, man, that would be so cool. Like, if that is the case, if that's what they do, then I think for me, he would surpass Thanos as like an anticipated threat because of how he can manipulate. Like, if he can manipulate multiversal timelines to that degree to change outcomes, like in that nature, like, man, phase 4 and 5 and 6 are going to be like absolutely insane.
So another theory, what if Kang is not active right now, but the point of this show is to show us the universes that the individual Kangs the variants will live
inhabit.
So we understand what their universe is like and what they know at the time where they communicate. Because we find out, well, I mean, He Who Remains let us know that the problem is that they became aware of one another. They found out how to communicate with one another. And that's where things got crazy because their universes were not the same. So this could be setting us up in that way. For example, one Kang, there could have been a deadly virus on his planet, which we know, like if I'm thinking about the zombie episode, there could be a deadly outbreak on his planet and he's trying to, find out the cure. And in turn, maybe communicates with a different Kang who, I don't know, is maybe dealing with a war between regular humans and Wakanda. Like this is a lot of things going on here. So that could be the purpose of this show.
It's like the Cell arc from Dragon Ball Z when they were time traveling to save Goku. When Trunks was. That's unfortunate, man. The Cell arc in Dragon Ball Z was like that. That was fire. That was fire.
No.
That was great. This is gonna be it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. Man, Kang, oh man, that's gonna be good. I'm glad Yeah, Kang is going to be an interesting villain. I can't. I was thinking about Shang-Chi today. I got to go see that again.
Yes.
Indeed, it is coming out on Disney Plus November 12th, I believe. They got a lot of stuff coming out November 12th.
No, that's premiere access, or like I'll just be able to watch it regular.
Just regular watch. They're not doing premiere access for Shang-Chi. They did some announcements for the November lineup. I guess we can talk about that tomorrow.
Yes.
Because I need to get all that information together. But yeah. Like, there's a lot. There's a special for the MCU coming, and there's a special for The Mandalorian as well. Which it was, they were pretty vague about what it is, but that Marvel one is going to be Flames, because it's supposed to. From what I gather, it's something similar to The Gallery. I don't know how similar. I don't know if it's like an episodical, like, I don't know if it's an entire show, but there's a special for the MCU, and there's a special for The Mandalorian. So we shall see. I'll get some more information. We can talk about that tomorrow, because that's November. November's going to be a big month apparently on Disney Plus.
That's what's up. Shoot, the next few months are just going to be dope for movies and TV in general. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, when is that The Eternals comes out? November? Is that November, or is that in October? Is that November 15th? It's got to be, because that's when November 12th has to be a Tuesday or Wednesday, because
November 5th.
It's the 5th, so it's before this. Interesting. Oh well, either way, that's it. Hey, that's all I got for this episode. That was you definitely opened my eyes to some things that I wasn't considering. Not enough to change my score. I'm still at a 7, but you know, at least there were some additions that I hadn't considered.
As I said, the most important part of the episodes is not necessarily what we see in the episode. It's what we don't see. What we don't see is what sets up that universe a little bit more, in my opinion. But
I agree, and that's definitely the strongest point to argue for the quality of the episode overall. Minus the fun factor. It's a fun episode.
Definitely.
And that's my compliment.
No argument.
Episode. That's it. There it is. That's me being positive.
I appreciate that. Well, as always, thank you so much for watching. Please join us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Twitch at Certified Gumbo. Please, if you love us, buy us some coffee. The link is in the description bar down below. And please join us on Discord. We talk about this stuff all day, every day. So please join our Discord. That is also in the description bar. And lastly, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and turn on those notifications. We got shorts coming. There's a lot more streaming happening now, and you don't want to miss out. Cool. We'll talk tomorrow on the cookout and Friday Visions.
Friday Vision. So we're going to do something a little different for the Visions review. As you may or may not know, Visions is out on Disney Plus now. All 9 episodes have been released simultaneously, so you can actually go binge watch the entire series. I have not seen a single episode yet. I will be doing watch parties on Fridays at 7 p.m. in the Discord for each of those episodes. So we'll do a watch party at 7, and then I'll go live at 8 p.m. to talk about that episode. So if you want to watch along with me, you can join the Discord, and then, you know, as always, I'll be live on Friday to talk about that episode review. But just going to try something a little different to see how that works. Since these episodes are like 20 minutes. Oh, nice. They're very short.
And before we go, the captain's log, I've mentioned that before. The watcher is not specifically saying what the nexus point is anymore. I don't know what the reason is, but he did make it clear in this episode that Odin not raising Loki as his own son is what turned Thor into the Thor that we have. But he did not specifically say that was the Nexus event. But he did make it clear that was the decision that decided this. But there could have been another Nexus point that caused Odin to make that decision. We just don't know what that is yet. So, but that's all I got. Coop, take us out.
All right, that's it for this episode. Thank you all for joining us. We will see you all tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as I always say. Peace. Oh, wait. First of all, let me go back to Kanar. Yeah, Gohan, man, what a big disappointment he was. That's all I'll say. Peace, love, blessings, and may the force be with you always.